Today I'm in conversation with Sister Elsie John. She is the principal of Holy Cross School, Baripur, Kolkata. She also happens to be my former principal in Amarjyoti School in Bhairava. Today I'll talk to her about her life as nun, her childhood days, her experience in daily administration of school, and many more things. Let's see how it goes. Sister, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Saurav. I'm happy to be part of this your endeavor called In Conversation. Very grateful to you for having given me this opportunity, and I hope that will be a great time that we have in conversation.
My aim is to have a meaningful conversation, so let's see how it goes. It's as always, I know and I hope it will always be great. How are you doing these days?
These days, of course, it is a stressful days, I must say, because of this coronavirus. In the beginning, of course, we were very positive that things will turn out to be good soon. But then it is taking its own time and toll. So it's a little not that encouraging for me and for others.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, for the schools, especially when the parents are not in a position to pay their fees to send their children to the school. And also we are hard pressed with the board examination that is coming soon. And we are nervous whether our students are prepared well or not, because we had only Zoom classes, which is very different from other like physical classes. So we had a time of experimental time, or learn from our errors and then redo again. Such kind of a lot of experiments were going on with the Zoom classes. So we are really anxious about how our students are going to face the board examination.
We'll come back to COVID times. I understand it's difficult for all of us. Maybe a little later, I'll talk to you in detail about how your last year was about this COVID. But just a short question. I guess it's your 31 years, right, at Sisters of the Cross?
Yes.
If I'm not wrong, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, from 1990, I am a Sister of the Cross.
Yeah. So if you look back these 31 years, how do you find yourself? Like, are you happy? Are you satisfied? Just a short question.
Yes, extremely happy and satisfied with my life.
Good to hear that. Okay, so let's start now. I'm more interested, like, let's start from your childhood days, right? If you want to remember now, going back through your childhood, what do you remember?
I remember my happy childhood life. I come from a very middle class family. Just like any children of that time, my parents brought me up as a free child, as well as a God-fearing child. I was a happy child, and coming from a middle class family with 7 siblings, my parents had their own struggles, difficulties to bring us up. But what I felt is the more courageous and outgoing, I could relate with the society more. That kind of character I had already formed when I was at home itself. Maybe that was the influence of my 5 brothers. Because wherever they went to play, I went to play. Whatever play game they had, I had it. So I would say I never felt that I am a girl, therefore I am restricted to certain things. No. But at the same time, my parents taught me how to safeguard yourself from any dangers, not to cross the limit. So that with that such freedom, I grew up, and that I was very, very happy.
Talking about your parents, like could you talk us through, like, how was their influence on you, like maybe their character, their behavior, and those influences that you still have in your life?
Yes. My father was a very hardworking person. Although he was not very successful in his life, I must say, but he looked after the family very much. Though he was the only breadwinner of the family, he had money for everything. He had to work very hard. He was an electrician by profession. And then for some time he went abroad, worked in Saudi Arabia. But there also he was not very successful. He came back and he became a kind of a finance. He began a finance that also was not that very successful, and he died in his 50s. His 50s. So he was a hard worker, and he was so faithful to the family. And he was also very strict with us, strict with the freedom. That is what I enjoyed. He was very strict. At the same time, he gave us freedom. So these things I too have within me. I have acquired his characteristics, which makes me feel proud of. And my mother is a very, very enduring person. I have seen her enduring all kinds of pain, all kinds of misunderstandings, all kinds of ill treatments, like from my grandmother, paternal grandmother, and the different at different times, at different stages of life. The best thing that I admire in my mother, she is very enduring even to this day. She couldn't take up the responsibility of the family when my father died. That my family was, my brothers, they worked hard and brought up the family. So this enduring power has helped me a lot in my life, especially as a sister of the cross. When I faced difficulties and problems, I could endure without much complaints. And she was so prayerful. Early morning, 4 o'clock, she begins her prayer, and then she goes to bed maybe 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and with the prayer. So that also made a lot of influence in me, in my life. And she used to tell me she liked to become a sister, and her parents couldn't or did not allow her. And she was very happy and very supportive of me because I came to become a nun. So she takes so much proud of her daughter, me, as a nun. Her love and prayer is supporting me so much to this day.
So you talked about your mother, enduring character, and how is still helping you, and of course your father, who was strict with you all child, but at the same time gave you freedom. I heard a line somewhere, it was freedom is not doing what you like, but doing what is right. So perhaps even with that freedom, you do whatever right it is. So it's kind of a good thing to hear. Your father was a family man, and your mother enduring character, and somehow in a family you have a good bonding. Talk to about your 5 brothers. Talk to us about your 5 brothers. How are they? How are they doing now?
They are now well established in different, all of them are married and they have their families, and all of them are well established in their families. And I'm happy to see them growing. And I take pride in them because it is only because of their hard labor that they have come up in life. And I have also a sister who is married and living a happy life too. My sister is more silent than me, and she is with her family, and that's it. She doesn't interfere or doesn't so much. We are not in for her family is very important, and she takes care of the family. She doesn't interfere in our the family matters. She comes home, she stays with us, and she spends some time and she goes. But that's with my sister. But it is my brothers with whom I am so much well united and related with. That is a great help, and I feel so proud to say I have Panchapandavas in my home
Of
to,
course.
to help me, to support me, to protect me. I feel proud in saying that I have 5 brothers.
Mhm. And
So that's
talking about your home, do you find time to go back home? Like,
yes. According to the rules of our congregation, we have once in 2 years we can go for. Earlier it was 15 days. Now it is 21 days. So I go home. I can be with my brothers, my mother. Mostly I stay with my mother, and then wherever my brothers are, I go and stay with them. And I know their pains, their difficulties, their joys, their sorrows. Everything I come to know because I go and stay with them. I see their struggles, difficulties, success, everything. So I am very much well united with the family too. Although I am not, I don't give any financial support or any other support, but then my emotional support, my encouraging words influence them a lot, I know. So that's how I am relating with my brothers.
Yeah, of course.
And my mother.
Thing is, like, yeah, people don't realize it. Like, the emotional support is much more important than financial support, right? So you get in touch with your family, give you emotional support. In a way, like, they don't realize it, but it's a great help.
Yes.
Talking about your place, just or your hometown, can you describe or tell me something about your place you remember, the place where you grew up?
Yes, I am born in Kerala, known as God's own country, a district called Thrissur, which is famous for festivals.
Okay.
And I also love festivals and celebrations, maybe because I am born in such a place. I love to celebrate. And Saurav, you must have seen me also in the school.
Of course. Yeah.
Any functions, I like celebrations, noise, and all that I like. So my hometown is Kottapady. It's close to a very famous temple called Guruvayur, Guruvayur temple. So in that place there was a king, and this Kota means the fort, and Padi means it is the step or the path that leading to. So the place name is given Kottapadi. That means the path that leading to the fort. So that is how my place name is. My place name is Kottapadi. That is the meaning of it. So it's a very famous place, and we have a church just near my home, and therefore I am very much united, or I am very much with the church and its activities. I was very active in the church when I was a young girl itself. So that's what about my hometown.
Could you also talk to us about, like, the people there? How are they? Like, what do they do in daily life, or their profession?
Yeah, most of them are businessmen. Most of them, yes. We have Thrissur is a district. It's a business hub. This Thrissur district itself is a business hub, and almost all the people are business people. So that is the main. We rarely hear now these days. There are government employees and things like that, but otherwise it's business people. And nowadays the children are trying to become doctors, professionals like doctors and engineers, all that. Otherwise, earlier it was all business. So we come from such family background.
So you completed your school at your hometown, or?
Yes. Up to +2, I did my studies in my hometown itself. And then I came to join as a sister.
Talk to us about your school days. Like, how were you as a student?
I must say that I was not a very brilliant student or extraordinary student. I was just average student. Average student. I was not. I said no. There was no such dreams. I must become a doctor, engineer, of that type of thought never occurred in my life or in my brother's life, I must say, except the youngest one. So it was not important for us that we must become doctors and engineers. But I was so sure that I made sure that I passed my class 10, my class 12, that I wanted. So that was done. Otherwise, there was no such dreams to become somebody. But as I said earlier, the church was so close to us. Every day I go to church, and we have the moral classes in the church. So there, yes, up to maybe in class 4, 5, when I was in class 4, 5, it was buried. But again, after my plus 2, again that desire came up. Then that's what I came to join the Congregation of the Sisters of the Cross.
And still being in the school days, like, could you remember doing what fun things you did, like what you like, what didn't like some subjects you liked, or the sports you played? Do you remember something?
Again, I will say the same, that I was good at dance. So I used to go for dances whenever this dance. Then I was good at acting. So I still remember the scenes that I have acted in drama in the school. So that 2-3 things are there. And the sports, high jump I liked, and I have got prizes. High jump. These are the few things. And those days, this only were little sports, little cultural activity, Malayalam medium school. So we did not have also any facilities to grow in these special, to find out even, we did not have. But I also found that I was good at teaching. Because my catechism teacher told me that you are a good teacher, you can become a good teacher. So that was there within me. And of course, I had a few friends, and most of them also have become sisters. That is there.
So you mentioned like you finished your 12th in your hometown, then you became nun, or you joined.
I came to UP.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
My question to
sorry.
you is, of course, you became nun after that, and you talked about the influence your mother had, and you were very close to church, so perhaps those influences directed you to become nun. But the thing is, like, do you remember the exact day, or maybe the exact moment, or those times, right? You decide to become something, like, still not sure, should I do this, should I not do this? Was it clear to you all the way from your childhood, or how did you come up with this idea?
As I said, I had in mind when I was a little child of class 4 or 5, then it was all buried. And then my cousin sister, my aunt's daughter, she's also a sister. And it was when she came and told me, Elsie, she used to come and narrate the stories about the places where she was working. She was working in UP.
Okay.
And she used to come and tell us the story. There are no Christians, but we teach she was also teaching in the school, and she was headmistress of the Holy Cross school in North Enva. So she used to come and tell us how illiterate and ignorant the people are. And she said, if you like to come and teach these children, you can come with. And then I began to contact her. That was the time I felt, yes, God is calling me to such kind of life. It came through her. And I knew my parents will not give me permission. And I also had a great desire to wear a lot of gold ornaments. I used to dream about having a lot of gold ornaments and to live a married life. All that was, I used to see so many marriages taking place in the church. So I used to have that desire. But then moment when my cousin sister told me that like this, do you like to? Immediately I said, yes, I want. And then I chased behind the goal that that desire. And then I told that I definitely want to become a sister. And I used to do some, if I am struggling with something or some sad moments or some confusion, I used to go and open the Bible and read what God wants. So in that I saw the Jesus calling his disciples, and it was almost a confirmation for me. So that from that time onwards, it was fixed in me that I become a nun. I serve the humanity, and now I am satisfied fully.
Yeah, and you just mentioned after you decide to become a nun, you decided to become a nun, and then after that you mentioned like you went to UP. I don't know what exact term what you call it, but let me say it. Perhaps you had some sort of training, or how was your early years at that place, like becoming a nun?
When I came to UP, Uttar Pradesh, I came and then we had 3 years of a training program, which was very, very tough. Tough because first of all, it was I found it very difficult to cope up with the climatic condition. In Kerala, it is such a good weather. We have no severe weather like heat and cold, but here when I came to UP, it was too hot in summer, and it was very severe winter in the very severe cold in the winter. So that itself was a great sacrifice, I must say, that I have to make a adjustment to live in UP. Then the language, I knew nothing of Hindi, and we couldn't communicate to the people. So we had to learn a new language, and sisters very, very, very strict with us that we speak Hindi or English, not our vernacular. So we were forced to learn Hindi, and then also the food habits. We have 3 times at home rice, and here chapatis that also made out of not the coconut oil. We use only coconut oil. Here it is all with mustard oil, that also it's not refined oil. So it had used to terrible that smell of the mustard oil. And sometime we have to close our nose. Once I got punishment, that was and I must say, even to this day, I don't like chapatis. If I get a chance to escape from chapatis, I do that. I still I get that smell of that first year what we have eaten. And the people are not very were not very clean. Even Northanva now also, I must say, still to be better people. So that time it was not at all clean, so we couldn't drink water if we go out, we couldn't eat anything. So lot of struggles we had to go through. And moreover, in the we call it as the novitiate, the training period called novitiate, it was very tough. We had lot of hard work, physical work, lot of gardening, lot of digging, taking care of the cows, and all kinds of life, all kinds of work we were introduced to. So all that, but all these were and I had companions from 3-4 states like Assam, from Tamil Nadu, from Belgaum, Karnataka, from Kerala. So we were a mixture of different languages. So we couldn't even communicate. From Orissa also we had. So we were 14 of us, but we had at least 7 to 8 languages, people speaking from 7-8 languages. And that was another struggle to communicate till we learned to converse in English. So that was another struggle that we went through.
That was my next question. Like, how did you deal with people from different places?
Yeah, that is what forced us to learn English very quickly. And to the people, of course, Hindi, but in UP, they were not talking to us in Hindi, that also. They had Bhojpuri.
Exactly.
So it was very difficult for us to understand. But eventually, we had a aim in our life. Like me, all the others also had that we want to become sister. So we knew that in order to become sister, I need to make all these sacrifices.
Mhm.
I have to adapt to the situation, to the people, to the culture, to the language. So it was to achieve a goal for me. So
Mhm.
therefore, I really took trouble to learn. Unless and I knew, unless and until I learned these things, I'm not going to become a sister.
Mhm.
So I took it that way, and therefore, slowly it all became part of life.
Thank you for letting us know your personal life. That concludes our first half of the episode. I guess listeners will get to know more in close with you.
Yeah.
Get to know, yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Let's move to the second part, and we'll talk more about the academics, your daily administration of school, how you handle it. My first question to you in this part is, how has education changed in all these years, like for you?
I was not with a very great aim to become anybody great or like that in academical wise. But
Mhm.
when I came to join, I said they told me that people are so illiterate, so I came. So I was very eager to become a teacher,
Mhm.
and I got the qualifications, whatever is needed for that, and then I became a sister in 1990, and then I was sent to Northanva in UP.
Mhm.
There I taught 1 year, 6 months in the Holy Cross school itself, and another 6 months in the Christ the King school, which is Hindi medium.
Mhm.
And from there, I was sent to Bhairava.
Mhm.
I was there with helping or taking care of the mentally handicapped children or children for 2 years.
Mhm.
Then the people of Bhairava, they asked us to begin a school, English medium school in Bhairava, and therefore I was the one of the pioneers.
Mhm.
You will remember Sister Annunciata
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and Sister Annie and myself, Sister Josie. We were the one of the 4 people who began that mission there and started the work there. So I was there in the school helping Sister Annunciata. She was in charge of the school.
Mhm.
For me, it was coming to Nepal was another big shift in my life, because from there, no communication with the home, with our loved ones,
Mhm.
with the friends, with the sisters. Totally a new country and a new culture,
Exactly.
and therefore again it was a struggle. But these struggles, I never felt it as a struggle, but there were 17 children who were entrusted to our care. We dedicated our life for these children, especially the first batch of Amar Jyoti.
Mhm.
I can even count their names. I can recall their names even now.
Mhm.
So that much I was so involved with the children. So nothing was for me a struggle.
Mhm.
I had to learn the language. I learned the language, and then I was loved by the people of Nepal, because any house I could just walk in,
Mhm.
including your parents. I know how many times I have visited your family. The people there in Bhairava, they accepted us so well, and I could walk into their homes very freely. And the parents of the children who were interested to okay, they were very, very happy and very helpful to us. And in fact, they gave us all that is needed to put up the school.
Mhm.
So I felt when I came there, the culture and the life in Nepal was so different,
Mhm.
and I felt that the people were so much, they enjoy life.
Mhm.
But I felt that people were not that oriented towards education much.
Mhm.
That I felt. So we had to a kind of push. We had to give a push so that children get educated well.
Mhm.
It's a very colorful and attractive world there in Nepal for me that time.
Mhm.
Not really oriented towards the moral life and oriented towards education. It was not there. Many of the children were of first generation children who are entering the school.
Mhm.
So we had such children. So it was, but at the same time, life was very interesting there. Education also was just growing that time in Bhairava. We
Mhm.
didn't have many schools there in Bhairava, right, as we are having right now.
Mhm.
Very few schools we had, hardly 4 or 5 schools.
Mhm.
Amarjyoti was something boon to the society when we began there. And education if I compare with my experience in UP,
Mhm.
UP was totally a first generation children coming to school. So we had to teach not only the children, we had to teach the parents. There was a little better, but not like how I experienced in at home.
Mhm.
So that was the difficulty, or that was the difference that I found in the education in the at the start of my life, my career as a teacher in the school.
You hear my voice, sister? I lost you, I think.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Okay.
you exactly compared, right? Like student coming from the first generation of the family in education.
First,
Of
yeah.
course, in Kerala, like there were a lot educated people, and then you come to northern side, and of course in Nepal, maybe just starting the education. Yeah, it is kind of difficult. Like even you just mentioned, like starting education to student, and then of course to family as well. So I understand it's kind of difficult. My next question to you is like, how do you find like daily administration of school? How do you solve things? Like how do you approach to things? Like to students, you have a lot of dimensions. To students, to parents, even to authorities, how do you deal with it?
Yes. This is my 19th year I am completing as a principal of the schools in different places like
Mm-hmm.
UP. I was there for 7 years. Then in Calcutta, I am now completing 5 years in another school, 2 years, like that. Almost 19 years I am principal of the school. As the years go by, I must say it's becoming tougher and tougher.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, the children used to believe all what the teachers say or the principals say, and they used to obey.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the parents say, they would say, no, my teacher has said this and that is right. Even if it is wrong, they will say, no, what my teacher has said is the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now that scenario is not there.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore it is with regard to the taking care of the children, or disciplining them, or training them, it's very tough. Not like as you all were there in the school. I think you came in, I was there when you were in class 5 upward,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
If I tell you to sit in that place, you used to sit.
Yeah.
But now that is not the scenario in the schools.
Mm-hmm.
Moreover, parents have got 1 or 2 children, therefore they want to protect their child. So even if you tell the parents that this way of your word is not okay in this, they are going to protect their children, not going to help the teacher or the principal or the administrators.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of cooperation from the parents are not there right now, because they all have only one child.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier we had from children coming from 2-3 members or siblings, but now that is not the scenario. So what happens is we are not able to really discipline the children. So we have to make a new strategy for that, or we have to shift our focus, like. So that was a great that is a difficult thing that we are going through now. We have to update. As a principal, I had to update myself I had to equip myself to take care of the children. And the what I must say, the facilities given to the children. They are open to all kinds of media, especially this internet. It has done its own good, as well as it has done also damage to the students, which children or the parents were not able to understand. Earlier we used to say children should not be given, parents, we used to tell them not to give the mobile to the children, but now we cannot say that. So it is a big shift. Now what we have to do is that we have to educate the children. Okay, you use, but diligently.
Of course.
You have to use diligently, because the internet is open to many things, necessary and unnecessary, good and bad. So now my focus is to teach the children what is your limit and what happens if you cross the limit in using the media or the internet. Or all this like Instagram or Facebook, all this media, all these things are good, but at the same time they should know where is their limit. So now that kind of education I am giving to my students. I don't say don't use, but do use with diligently. That's a big shift that I had to make in administering the school as a principal.
Yeah. One more thing, like if I remember, as a principal in school, like you gave more importance to parent-teachers interaction, right? You even, like, teachers, principal, they visited the students' home so that they could communicate well, right? How the well-being of the student. My question to you is, like, do you still do it? Like you have almost like 2,500, I guess 3,000 students in your school now. How do you do it?
See, we are working as a group, like we are 5 sisters. So we have divided the, as a principal, I don't keep all the right reserved in my hand. Like earlier, principal is head of the whole school administration, but now I don't consider that way we can handle the schools. My strategy has changed, and then I give, okay, nursery to class 2, I give it to one sister and give full freedom to do whatever they need to do. Therefore, I need not go into those children's life. Or there is a sister, I always did that. There is a sister who is in charge and she takes care of all their needs. And the same way I give like 3 to class 8, I give to another sister. So this way we have well divided our work. Therefore, they plan for their children. They want to visit the families. And then we come together and we share whatever experiences, whatever we have seen in that family. Then we decide what can be done for the children, the family. So what happens, it is not just a one-man show. It is a teamwork. And I must say it is that teamwork which has helped me to go on this many years as a principal. I don't handle alone I don't say that I am principal, therefore everything is under me. No, that is not my attitude. My attitude is we are teamwork. And that is also done with my staff. I give them lot of responsibilities to my staff, so that they also become leaders and begin to influence the students in their life.
This brings us to last part. Of course, in last part, I'll ask you about your last year. Like, it's for all of us was difficult. But before I move to the last section, just one question. Like you said, like you from Kerala, you moved to northern UP, then to Nepal, then of course you are in Kolkata again. Like you have a lot of languages to learn, right? Of course, I guess your the mother language is, I guess, Malayalam. Then you come to UP, you learn Hindi and English, then come to Nepal, come to Nepal, then you have, I guess you
Nepali,
spoke
yes.
fluent Nepali, and then you are in West Bengal. I hope you are good in Bengali as well. So how did you find learning different languages?
Okay, now I think my language has become a khichdi now. The right word that I use, maybe it is like a khichdi, because Hindi, yes, I learned, I can read, write, all that. But then when I came to Nepal, of course, the Nepali, I learned to speak, read, writing, of course, it is the same as Hindi, so there was no problem. When I came, then I had gone for a few months to Orissa. So there I learned the language there, spoken language. Came to Kolkata, I learned to read Bengali. Here in Kolkata, I learned the language to read, to understand, but not for writing or even speaking. I am not good at. I'm not good. I understand what they speak, but then to reciprocate that, I am not that well versed. Now I must say that I am coming back to Nepal. It is already announced that I am transferred to Bhairava again. So now again I have to brush up my Nepali. I don't know how long I will take, because Nepali and Bengali language have got a lot of similarities. So I am so sure I am going to mix them up there also in when I come to Bhairava. It was a struggle, but then what I am satisfied is that I am able to communicate. That is most important than the languages.
Exactly.
Languages, yes, that is means. But then I use many other methods or means to communicate, and I have succeeded in that. I have succeeded in that. So I'm happy that of course, my language is now a khichdi, but yes, khichdi also is very tasty. So
yeah,
I am happy with that.
Yeah, you made a point,
So
like
that's
language is
about-
just a tool, and I guess as long as you could communicate, it's a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So coming to the last part, we talk about last year. It was difficult for all of us. It's still difficult. How was it like when they said like, okay, everything has to be closed, school has to be closed? How did you find that time?
The beginning when the lockdown, when the lockdown began, when it was announced, I said for myself, I am actually what you call very active person, very very active. And then first of all, I thought of myself, what am I going to do in this lockdown? Just sit down in the room, in the house. I couldn't digest that. I couldn't digest. And then I said, no, I have to become more creative now. So I began to do some creative work like bottle painting. I was already good at art and craft, so making some things, some flowers, that kind of things I began with. Thinking soon, within 1 or 2 months, everything will be normal and I can start the classes. But when when I understood that it is not that easy that we open the school soon, then I began to think, no, now I cannot waste my time. I need to get my teachers and I begin the classes for my students. This was a clarion call, I must say. So I began to look through the net, how the classes can be taken. I have heard in abroad they do take classes online. So I searched in the net and found out that Zoom is a very good tool for it. I spent some time to make a study how safe and how hard and how good and how easy it is. And then I began to organize with my teachers. March 23rd, I think the lockdown started in India. And by 23rd April, I began the
your classes.
Zoom classes for my students.
Mhm.
So there wasn't any time for me to be like that. Yes.
Mhm.
I had to motivate the parents. I have to motivate the children. I have to motivate the teachers. I have to motivate my own sisters who are working with me, because none of us were expert in all these.
Mhm.
Even internet, for that, I must say, we don't go for too much of this internet, working on it like that.
Mhm.
But I had to do that, and then I am so happy that I succeeded in that. I succeeded in having the classes for the children,
Mhm.
and that was the first thing during this lockdown I had to do.
Mhm.
So then from then onwards, if I look at, I used to think how 3 months were, as the days the lockdown was increasing, I used to think, what am I going to do? And I must say, not a single day I have taken leave from the school.
Mhm.
There was no time that I have got even for my personal work. When the Zoom classes were going on, I was always monitoring the classes.
Mhm.
So I was too busy more than any other year. I must say, I was too busy in this year.
Mhm. And
But it was also stressful days. These days are stressful days.
talking about your Zoom classes, right? How difficult it was to communicate with the students and their parents. Like for me, the thing is like everybody come from a different background. Some have well access to internet and some don't. Like how did you communicate at that time?
That way, I am happy with the place that I am in. In
Mhm.
Kolkata, people are for education.
Mhm.
I must say, the people, as soon as they heard that we are going to have Zoom classes, immediately they purchased mobiles for their children. They recharged them with internet facilities, all that Android phone, all what is needed, they gave. The people here are for education.
Mhm.
That I am very happy with. The parents are educated, and people they want their children to be educated. They are only one child.
Mhm.
So I did not find that there are so many children who were not able to access the internet. Also, when the lockdown period was over, I told the parents, those who do not have such facilities, they can come to school, use the internet of the school, and attend classes. That option I had given to the parents.
Mhm.
So, but most of them, they managed by themselves, even to get the devices for their children. So here I didn't find difficulty to make the parents to understand the need and things like. What I faced difficulty was that the senior class students, they were going out of the way.
Mhm.
They were deviating from and sending memes and things like that, kind of ridiculing things.
Uh-huh.
So that I had to handle.
Mhm.
And another thing was that as I said, educated parents in the classroom, teachers could very freely teach the children.
Mhm.
But teachers were well aware when they were teaching, especially the lower classes children, when they were teaching their children, their parents also were sitting by the side.
Mhm.
So they had to be extra careful
Mhm.
in what they speak, what they teach, what they write, everything. So that because parents also were there were parents who were criticizing that teacher was not taking class properly and giving me the feedback. So then I had to teach the teachers. I have to upgrade them, update them with knowledge, all those things. So I did that. So that way teachers became expert. Parents became very happy with the performance of the teachers, and then students also became. And I had to discipline them in
Mhm.
this matter.
Mhm.
Now, if you want to know, this 1 year, almost 8 months, they were sitting at home,
Mhm.
class 9 upward, allowed to come to school. Discipline, to bring back the discipline, we are struggling
Mhm.
to bring back the discipline that they had in the school. totally gone. Is the what you say, their way of dressing up, their way of the hairstyles. Literally, we have to go on telling them to write and give them homework to our classwork to write. These were great. We found it very difficult in the classrooms, and especially when class 9 have come back, 9 to 12 have come back, and I am sure what will happen. I don't know. I really worry what will happen to the other children, because they did not have almost a year the classes, physical classes. So discipline is a great concern again. And they all carry the mobile to the school, and then again to bring them back to be without the mobile, it is very difficult.
I guess with time things will be better, and I hope it will be better even for students, teachers, and parents.
Yes.
That brings to the end. My last question to you is, like, of course, I know you are very busy. What do you do in your free time, like reading books, or do you have some hobbies? What do you do?
Yes, I read a lot of books. That is one thing. Then I also do some painting, like bottle painting, some art and craft, some stitching. These are my then lot of things in the designing, in the computer designing. So many things I do. And another one big work I have is planning. I go on planning things for the next year, coming year. Now I am told to go to Bhairava, so I already began to plan what I should do in Bhairava. All that kind of. I always do that. So, and I dream, and my dreams so far it has come true. So that keeps me active, alive, and busy with.
Could you suggest a book that everyone must read, if you remember something, or your students to read?
The second time I read the monk who sold his Ferrari is one of my best book. I like that book. Then the another one is I also read the book Who Will Cry When I Die. It was a very good book for me as a religious. That is something I was very much interested in that book. These are the books which I liked very much these days, what I read. Charles Dickens stories, those from the library I used to take and read, because I wanted to have not a very serious reading, so I take those books and read.
Yeah, good to hear that, because I guess in somehow you need to have a habit of reading books. It enlightens you. Brings to the end of this episode. I really had a wonderful time talking to you for last 1 hour. It really enlightened me, like getting to know more the things personal about you, and I hope the listeners will get to know personal about you. At the end, do you want to tell something?
I would wish all those who listen to this conversation, whatever may be the life offers, be happy, and that will push you through all the difficulties. Count your blessings, and the Lord will reward you for that. That's my point for my life, and I wish that for all.
Thank you for your message, sister.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.